July was a month full of good surprises, one letdown, and a very cool, fun, and very adventurous reading challenge, apart from my usual ones. We have to talk about mermaids, sirens, pirates, krakens, and curses. A very fantasy heavy month, but also very romantic. We have lots to unpack, many spreads to make, and you are going to hear my thoughts on each book. Hi, I'm Juliana and welcome back to another video. Today we are updating my reading journal with the books I read in July, so let's get into it. Also, a little disclaimer before we begin. Every reading journal update takes me many hours to complete, so these past few months I have been filming a little bit each weekend. That's when I have time to film my videos, so if you notice any changes in the lighting or changes in my nails, that's why. So for this month, I decided to go for a pirates and mermaids theme. I thought about doing only pirates or only mermaids, but I'm now a Patreon of Mochi Bujo, and she makes these beautiful themes every month, and since she had this pirate and mermaid combo, I decided to use it. So I just printed them and cut them as stickers on my Cricut, and then I just have to build my spread. Also, any stationery that I use on this video will be linked down below, at least the ones that are still available, as well as my discount codes for some shops. So if I forget something, just ask me in the comments. For this cover page, I knew I wanted to make an underwater scene for this beautiful pirate and mermaid to shine, so I used some vellum paper that has the ocean, and I used this one in specific because I really liked the ray of sunshine that's peeking through, and then I just tried to lean more towards the pirate aesthetic with these very ornate circle frames and also the map washi tape. But then for the mermaid aesthetic, I used this gold waves washi tape. I really tried to tell the story of these beautiful girls through the cover page, so I think I accomplished that. So now let's continue the story to the left side. I always use the same formula for my reading journal, at least this year I have, and that's basically making a very centered collage on the right page and then making a full collage on the left page. That's where I'm going to put the book covers. So I just use the same materials but in different places, and I play around with the stickers. I usually don't think too much about the left page because I'm not trying to make a perfect collage like the right side. Here I'm basically building a background for the books to sit on, so I just try to have some fun. I'm not putting the book covers yet because at the time I didn't know if I was going to finish the books that I was reading, so after I finish all the book spreads, we are going back and fill it in. So this month I read Beautiful Venom by Rina Kent, which I gave 4 stars. The Saltwater Curse by Avina St. Graves, I gave 5 stars. To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo, I gave 3.5 stars. The Song of Salt and Shadow by Serene Rose, I gave 5 stars. And Beach Read by Emily Henry, I gave 4 stars. That's it for the cover spread for now, so let's move on to the reading challenge that defined this month. This is the Sails and Tales reading challenge made by Manda Made here on YouTube. I will link her channel down below. And she actually made this challenge last December to celebrate her reading journal theme for 2025 that was inspired by the book Fable. And she said that we can do this challenge whenever we want, so I thought it was very fitting to do it in the summer months and actually make me hate summer a little less. So basically on this challenge you have different prompts for each characters. So you have the captain, the pirate or the mermaid. and you can play in different ways. You can be like me and just read whatever you want and then after that see what prompts you completed with those books, or you can choose the character that you want and read books that will complete the prompts for them. And then you also have a bingo with the same prompts, so you can choose the placement of those prompts on each square. I just went with the flow and saw which character I ended up being based on the prompts that I completed, but since at the time I didn't know all the books that I was going to read on this month, I'm also going to go back to this spread after the book reviews are done. So we are now going back a few pages in the journal because I had one empty page at the end of the June spreads and I didn't want to waste it, so I'm going to use this one for my beautiful Venom book review. So the story follows Dahlia Thorne, and she's currently on this college trying to infiltrate on this secret society named Vipers because she suspects that one of them had something to do with an aggression or an accident that put her sister in a coma, and she wants to seek revenge. Then we have Kane Davenport. He's the charismatic captain of the Vipers hockey team on this college, and he's basically the secret society boss on the ground. There's more people above him, but he basically rules the entire college. So of course, Dahlia sees him as a means to a goal. If she's closer to the team, she has more probability of solving her sister's mystery. And well, let's say that things don't turn out the way she wants. It took me a little while to warm up to this couple because I wasn't really enjoying the beginning of the book, but Rina Kent has this magical way of pulling you in even if you are on the fence with the characters, and I'm actually glad I did because I ended up really liking the book. The beginning had this very controversial and a little uncomfortable non-con situation, and until I finally learned the truth, I was really hating Kane. But if you read this book and you reach the initiation scene, please push through because there's an explanation and it all makes sense and it makes the whole situation more bearable. I liked Dahlia. She was very forward with her feelings and what she wanted from Kane since the beginning, and it's very cool to see that in a protagonist because some of them are more shy and don't communicate that well, but here it was just fine. I chose this quote from Kane that I think pretty much summons this couple. Quote, "I don't know what love is and whether or not it's real. But if it exists, you're its definition for me." Unquote. I really love how Rina always builds the complicated characters with different life situations and different mental healths. I think it's really beautiful how she portrays them and how they begin to understand those feelings, even if they are not entirely sure what they mean. Anyway, let's move on to the next book review that is for the Saltwater Curse. This book follows Christy and Orders. Christy was living a life of abuse by her husband's hands. That is, until enough is enough and she plunges a knife into his neck. So, to survive her husband's family empire, she had to flee and change her name to Cindy, which led her into a safe haven in Bali, working with some underground people. Orders is the king of the Deadlands. He's the last kraken of his bloodline and the final hope to break a terrible curse that plagues his lands. And the last hope he has of breaking this curse is finding his soulmate, his destined bride, and marry her to save the kingdom. But that's not easy, and he surely isn't expecting his mate to be human. But if it's fate, there's nothing he can do but obey. So he decides to drag his bride, Cindy, to his island, kicking and screaming, begging to be returned to the mainland. And one of the conditions of the curse is that the bride has to willingly marry him. So Hoarders has a very difficult job ahead. He must convince her that he's not a monster to be feared, but her soulmate who will protect her from anything and anyone who means her harm, including his own people. This book was so good. I felt everything that both of the characters felt. I felt so many things that my heart was clenching. I wasn't expecting to love this book, but even though the story is fictional with the krakens and the curses, it felt so real because the decisions that Cindy made were very rational, you know? I loved the twist on the fated mates trope. It's part of the plot twist, so I can say more. And my favorite character is a dog slash shark slash octopus creature that has its own POV sometimes. He's named Vaz, short for Vaseline. Yes, Vaseline. So let's continue to the one that disappointed me. This next review is for To Kill a Kingdom. The summary of this book is pretty on point, so I'm going to read it. Princess Lyra is Siren royalty and the most lethal of them all. With the hearts of 17 princes in her collection, she is revered across the sea, until a twist of fate forces her to kill one of her own. So, to punish her daughter, the Sea Queen transforms Lyra into the one thing they loathe the most, a human. Robbed of her song, Lyra has until the winter solstice to deliver Prince Helian's heart to the Sea Queen or remain a human forever. The ocean is the only place Prince Helian calls home, even though he is the heir to the most powerful kingdom in the world. Hunting sirens is more than an unsavory hobby, it's his calling. When he rescues a drowning woman in the middle of the ocean, she's more than what she appears. She promises to help him find the key to destroying all of siren kind for good. But can he trust her? So, as you can see, the premise is very good, and to be fair, it delivered what was promised. But what I didn't enjoy on this book was the characters and the romance. This is a young adult book, but that sometimes means that the yearning and the tension and the romance is actually very good, but for me, it wasn't. I was kinda rooting for them to not be together. I didn't like Lyra, I didn't love Helian, and I hated the Sea Queen, but that one is to be expected. For the page, I used these beautiful but a little creepy mermaids because that's how they are portrayed in the book. And again, I ended up loving the book review page even though I didn't like the book so much. I have to accept eventually that my favorite book review pages are the ones I do for my least favorite books. So I was expecting a lot more, especially because I saw this book being recommended a lot online, but maybe it wasn't for me. I was really dragging it and I wasn't enjoying my time with it, so I gave it 3.5 stars purely for the story without the romance. On another note, we are doing now a review page for another 5-star, and this one is for The Song of Salt and Shadow. This story follows Eris. She's a siren born without a tail, a siren that doesn't belong in the sea but also doesn't belong on the land. So she's on a mission to reclaim her tail back from the sea and finally have a purpose. But she's being hunted for her blood and the scales that grant humans magic they should never wield. So to escape, she climbs aboard a vast black ship, not knowing that the crew is cursed, and when night falls, ghostly shadows roam the deck. Some would sell her before dawn, and others would keep her. The captain, Sable, does neither, and he does not let her go. This one was so good. I loved every second of it. It made me cry when I reached chapter 11, and it made me feel things. I know chapter 11 because I was telling my best friend about it. This is what I was expecting To Kill a Kingdom to be, but it was so much more. I loved Aries. She was a very kind, lovable, but not naive protagonist, which I love to see. I love my badass females, but sometimes I want more soft and realistic personalities like Aries. Sable was such a green flag, he was a flirt, and we felt the tension between them. It was a very good romance, and the plot was so interesting, full of adventures, and each sea was magical with different problems to solve. It had these Pirate of the Caribbean's vibes, and I loved it. I used this art from the artist Isa Chance on Instagram. It's so beautiful and I love this particular scene between Aries and Sable. They had so many good moments, but this is one of my favorites. I love how this page turned out with all these pastel purple colors and the pop of yellow from the ship, because it was very important to the story and I wanted to put a ship somewhere here, and the only one that I had that fit the theme was this one. And I think I like it, it makes it pop against the other decorations. For the quote, I chose one that is quite popular from this book, and it's one from Sable. Quote, "Resisting you is like telling the moon to stop pulling the tide." Unquote. It's a beautiful quote, and I really like how it fits with the story, the ocean, the moon, and of course, the tension between the two. I needed a palate cleanser after reading so many books about the ocean, and I decided to pick up Beach Read by Emily Henry, that is also part of my summer TBR, so I'm making progress. This one follows the story of January and Augustus. They're polar opposites. While January writes best-selling romance and happily ever afters, Gus is an acclaimed author of literary fiction and sometimes he kills off his entire cast. But they now have a thing in common. Actually, not just one. They are going to be neighbors for the next 3 months on beach houses, broke, and with writer's block. But they have the solution to the problem. Gus will have to write something happy, and January will have to write the next great novel. They will have field trips together, and of course, experiment the opposite of their genres. And no one will fall in love, obviously. One thing that I realized while reading this book is that I had the same exact problem with Book Lovers, also by Emily Henry. I enjoy and really like the characters and the story, and then the conclusion is bittersweet. I get that she writes more realistic stories, it's happily ever after, but I would say it's more real with real life problems that don't magically disappear like in books. But I don't know, I don't like her endings. I feel like the story builds this amazing male main character, and then it falls off. I don't like how the situations are resolved, and that's why I can't give 5 stars to this book. I even liked this one more than Book Lovers, but again, I don't like the ending. It felt like Gus was still not ready, at least in my opinion. I forgot to put a quote on this page because I made this one a week after all the others, so it slipped my mind. But that was my opinion in general. I know Emily Henry is very loved by many people and I still enjoy their books. I will probably read more of her in the future, so we'll see if my opinion changes. Now that all my book reviews are done, we can go back to put the book covers and make the other page of the reading challenge. And don't leave just yet because I still have to update my yearly spreads and also update my manga journal. So for the bingo I completed 12 prompts, but unfortunately I didn't make any bingo line. So I completed read a book that contains a map, read a story on leadership, a book with a black and white cover, contains a morally grey character, read a recent purchase, a book with an isolated setting, a book with a pretty cover, title contains a word with sound, lured by another's 5-star, read from a genre you're loyal to, water on the cover, and contains a non-humor character. And all the books I read this month count for this challenge, even the ones that are not ocean related. Amanda also explains all these prompts, so you can see that on her video if you are interested. And that means I am a captain, because I completed 6 of those prompts, and for the pirate and the mermaid I only completed 3 prompts each. I recorded the points on the back of the Dutch door, where I also put the rules for the challenge, because I wanted the page on the right to be the aesthetic of the character that I ended up being. So if I was a pirate, I would make this pirate aesthetic. If I was a mermaid, I would do a mermaid aesthetic. And I wanted to write the books that I read for the challenge that actually ended up being all of them. So for a captain, the aesthetic is a little challenging because I challenged myself to only use stationery that was older, so things that I had in my stash for a while that I don't use a lot. And while searching for these things, I realized that I have some mermaid stationery, but for pirates and captains, I don't have a lot of them. So I ended up relying more on the ocean, ships, and lighthouses for the aesthetic. Of course, I didn't want to use maps, treasure chests, and things like that, because I think it fits the pirate aesthetic more, so I put this paper in the middle that is from a notepad from Sticky Club that I really wanted to use on this reading challenge, and to hide the gaps underneath, I used this wave PET tape. Then, to complete the overall captain aesthetic, instead of just relying on the ocean pictures and the ships and lighthouses stickers that I put on the background, I also found a sticker sheet that had these old navigation instruments and things of that genre, so I used them and I really like how this page turned out. They are actually washi stickers, so they are slightly transparent, so I put them on sticker paper, my normal white sticker paper, and cut around it to make them more opaque. I didn't want to put book covers in here because I think it would be a little too much, so I wrote all the book titles instead, and the final step for this page to be completed is making a white border all around it, to make it more organized and not so much overwhelming. So I just cut around all the stickers with my X-Acto knife, and that's it for this page. Now let's go back to the very beginning and update all my yearly spreads. Starting with my favorite spread, that is my books read in 2026. I just love the look of all the covers and the ratings at a glance. I'm now at 31 in my reading goal, so that means I'm probably going to hit my goal of 40 in September, and I'm very proud of myself. For my bookshelves, I colored the books by format, so that means I read Beautiful Venom in paperback, the Saltwater Curse and the Song of Salt and Shadow were ebooks, and To Kill a Kingdom and Beach Read were audiobooks. I didn't add any letter to the A to Z challenge, but I did fill in the yellow and purple color in my Read the Rainbow challenge. I completed the July prompt in my Year of Cooper challenge for the chocolate eclair that contains darker themes, and I used Beautiful Venom for that. I added the Vipers trilogy by Rina Kent on my series tracker because Beautiful Venom is the first book. Then we can update my book catalog with my July books, and to make the process faster and easier for you, I'm making some magic transitions. The challenges are not done yet, so let's move forward to May and update my Adventures in Aldea challenge with the prompt for July that was to read one of my 5-star predictions, write a review and share it online or with a friend. And I already do that in my Instagram, so I just have to print the cover for the Song of Salt and Shadow because I forgot to print one. Then I completed more squares in my summer bingo: Red in the Sun, Yellow book cover, Start a New Series, Set in Summer, Author name starts with an S, an Emily Henry book, 2026 release, under 300 pages, On My TBR, Young Adult, Standalone, and Has Curses. And I checked all the books that I read from my summer TBR. That's it for my reading journal update, so let's now move on to my manga journal, and I'll do a flip through of both journals at the end of the video as usual. This month I read 5 mangas and 5 manhwas, and I'm only coloring 8 squares of my goal because I messed up last month, so I'm past the halfway point for my reading goal. I didn't watch any anime or TV series this month, so I don't have to count anything for my monthly statistics. So in July I read Psyche and I gave it 4 stars, An Excuse to Feel Young with 3.5 stars, Hell and High Water I gave 4 stars, Perfect Purpose 4 stars as well, My Little Inferno has 3 stars, Strelitzia 4 stars, Courage Garden also 4 stars, We're Not Cut Out to Be Lovers 4 stars, Pure Intentions 4.5 stars, and then later on I ended up finishing Unsleep and I gave it 5 stars, so we are going back later to add that one. Before we move on to the monthly cover page for July, let me just add a cover that I forgot last month, that is for Oni Bear, and we are also going to do a collage for it later on. So for this monthly cover page, I do the exact same thing as I do on my reading journal, also with the same theme, so there's not much to talk about. I decorate the border of the entire page and I leave the middle pretty much empty for me to put the covers. I decided to do the same monthly theme for both journals because it was easier for me to do that since I already had all the stationery on my desk, and I think it looks very consistent throughout the whole year, especially because from January to March I was doing my manga collages on my reading journal, so this way it stays consistent. And on this journal, I only do collages for the mangas or manhwas that I really like, instead of doing one for each of them. Also, sometimes I get questions about my rating system because I always forget to talk about it, but for those who don't know, I made my own rating system for my mangas and manhwas, and the acronym is BIS. So we have plot, environment, art, characters, and enjoyment. This one is inspired by the pitch rating system that I use in my reading journal, but that one was created by Erin Smith here on YouTube. Now let's continue on to the collages, and as I said before we do the July reads, I'm going first making the one for Honey Bear that I forgot to print things for last month. This story was very cute and sweet. So Moon Jeon-hoo's first love comes crashing into him smelling like the sweetest cookie around. After learning he's a new bakery owner in town named Yoo Ah-jin, Jeon-hoo asks him for a part-time job in the hopes of winning over his heart. Unfortunately, his plan is doomed from the start, as Ah-jin is completely done with relationships for now. But a little pushback is hardly an issue for the ace judo athlete Jianhu. He's prepared to do anything to make Ajin fall for him. Also, if I butcher any name, I'm so sorry. I really loved this story and the characters. The side couple was also very angsty and cute, but I really liked the setting with the bakery and the judo. It was very fun and it didn't have any red flags or toxic relationships like so many others, so I really loved this one. Plus, it gave me the perfect opportunity to use this tape from the washi tape shop that has bears, and that is a very important thing for the story. Moving on, we have Psyche. Psyche, an imprisoned royal, emerges after years in a tower to find his kingdom destroyed by rebellion and his family's rule condemned as cruel and corrupt. Grieving his brother Michel, Psyche is seized by the Liberation Army that is led by Antares, who proposes marriage to exploit an oracle and destroy the kingdom completely. Forced into this dangerous marriage, Psyche hides his hatred and plots revenge. But soon he discovers that perhaps his resentment is aimed towards the wrong man. This one was so interesting. I loved the story. First, we have mistaken identity because they all think Psyche is a woman, and the plot twists are so good. I loved each one of them. I could finally use this tape from Journal Say because it fits the vibe and the story perfectly, and I really love how it looks. I really liked the font of the title on the cover, so I decided to recreate it, but instead of using the light blue that is on the cover, I decided to change it to yellow to match the color palette of the collage. Then we have Cottage Garden. Burned out and buried in work, Isaac Schrader drowns his stress in drinks with his only friend, James. The next morning, he wakes up in a hotel bed, hungover, disoriented, and far from alone. Lying next to him is Theodore Donovan, his charming yet insufferable roommate from their boarding school days, a man who vanished without a trace 7 years ago. Their reunion is anything but ordinary, and Theodore's sudden return feels far from innocent. This one had the perfect moody and vintagey vibe that I needed as a palette cleanser, because even though it's not set in London, it gives you that London in the Sherlock Holmes era vibe, you know? It's pretty specific. I really liked the art style because it's very different, and I was actually expecting more angst and feelings, but it was actually a very chill romance between the two of them. Next, we have We Are Not Cut Out to Be Lovers. Introducing the noisy neighbor of your nightmares, a YouTuber. Not me, of course. It's been 6 months since broody auto mechanic Kumazawa moved in next door to Koichi, a streamer who claims to be an expert on love. After one too many loud recordings, Kumazawa finally snaps and shows up at Koishi's door, only to shut him up with a passionate kiss. Kumazawa has no interest in pursuing a straight guy, but Koichi stops by night after night and won't leave until he is satisfied. Coming off the heels of a traumatic breakup in which his partner cheated, Kumazawa is convinced he and Koichi won't work out, but Koichi is determined to persuade him otherwise. Can a physical relationship between two people who are totally not meant to be turn into something real? Okay, this one was actually very cute and fun. It's the typical one night stand turns into something more, and it's cliché for a reason. It's good. So for the collage, since he is a YouTuber and it's very important to the story, I decided to use this stamp that has these movie strips, and I'm using a very large sticker that is from a PET tape, and I'm cutting little squares of it to fit in each space of the stamp. Next to it we have Pure Intentions. Next to it, we have Pure Intentions. For 7 years, Seo Yeonjin, the one with brown hair, has nursed a secret crush on his best friend. But everything changes when Eon Shan-young, the one with black hair, transfers in and boldly confesses his feelings for his crush. Determined to protect the man he loves, Yeonjin finds himself caught in a battle of wits against Shan-young. I was expecting this one to be a love triangle, and I was so happy when it wasn't, because this was a rivals to lovers situation. And the first chapters might be very uncomfortable, but as soon as you see the real personality of the big bad Shan Young, you will love him. And now we have the last manhwa of this month, and it is Unsleep. On the day of a group project presentation, college senior Lee Seon-young is falsely accused of sexual harassment on the subway, causing him to miss the presentation and fail the class. Desperate to salvage his GPA before graduation, he scraps together enough money to enroll in summer classes, only to find himself stuck in another group project. And to his horror, one of his groupmates, Seo Shan-jun, turns out to be the very person who accused him. This one was so deep and it wasn't toxic as I was expecting. It really talks about PTSD, trauma, stress, and all these mental health issues. And the whole plot seems very what the hell, but it's very good, trust me. I didn't enjoy the last part as much because of the uncle and the family problems, but I really liked how we got to know the origin of the problem. Now we can go back and add this last manhwa to the yearly spreads, and I did another reading log spread off camera to add this one because the other spread, as you saw early on, was full. It's time for the final flip through. I hope you enjoyed this video, even though it is on the longer side. If you did, give a like, subscribe, and comment down below a fish emoji to let me know you watched it till the end. If you did, you are a real one. I was very happy with my reads this month. It was better than June, let me say that. And I had so much fun trying to use different things in each review page. And it was actually a little challenging because every book had pretty much the same setting. It was ocean, it was pirate ships. So it really made me get through my stash and use different decorations for each one. I think my favorite page is for the Song of Salt and Shadow. I really love the purple tones and the artwork on that one. So let me know your favorite page in the comments. For my manga journal, I only read yaoi stories this month, and that's usual for me, but I will try to find different genres in the near future, just to change things up a bit. Again, if you saw me use anything that you liked or want to get for yourself, everything will be linked down below, and you can use my discount codes and affiliate links to save some money at no extra cost for you. I'm still going through my summer TBR for August, but maybe I will do a different monthly theme next month to make sure I don't use the same things again, and I want a breath of fresh air every month, so that's my plan. I don't usually read pirate books, even though I really love pirates and the whole aesthetic, so maybe I will have to get through the rest of my summer TBR even after August. But after August we have to prepare my fall TBR, and I'm so excited for that because I already have some books in mind, so make sure you are subscribed to not miss that. Anyway, I hope you have a lovely day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!